Hey champions, thanks for joining me today. This is really exciting, doing my AMA. I'm in a new place. I'm in my brother's room actually doing this live stream, so it's gonna be an interesting one. I'm excited to do this, especially today. For those who don't know, today is my birthday, and I did this 2 years ago on my birthday for the 1 year anniversary, and it was a fun time. I didn't know what I was doing, especially when it came to doing live streams and doing AMAs. So I decided, okay, I'll just do it, see what happens. And I got a lot of advice. One of them was putting on some background music, and that's what you got what's going on right now. And the amazing background music was created by Jake. And then the other thing was having something to do in case there aren't questions coming in, and people want to see what I'm doing. So what I'll be doing is doing some tabletop simulator stuff. I'll be doing some deck design, especially with the new Future League champions. So hope you're excited about that. I hope you're ready for all this awesomeness. Before I jump into that, as always, I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. So let me just throw that up there. So special shout out to all the Patreon supporters, especially to Andrew, Gunther, Hill, Steven, Stevo, Nathan, and Will. Thank you for being our top tier supporters, and thank you to everyone who has supported us so much throughout this year. This year has been especially challenging. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you these promos in person in a little bit. They look absolutely amazing. So I got them just today, and I love the borderless promos. They look really, really cool. So I'm excited about those. And then the next thing I want to mention is, of course, don't forget to join us on Future League and get that amazing Casmodon promo. I'll be showing that. Okay, I'll make sure I lower the music a little bit. So thank you everyone who's helped out with the Future League stuff so far. And ooh, the music is loud. I'm so sorry about that. I'll make sure that that gets lowered. And yeah, so Casmodon promo, I'll show that in a little bit too. And then lastly, for the 3-year anniversary, the promo packages are now done. You can't, well, they're still going on right now, the last little bit, but they'll be done after this live stream. Doing the live stream right now. The auction is going on, and it's really cool to see people bid on stuff. And then we got some cool reveals that will be happening on the 23rd about just the future of Genesis. So let's turn down this background music. You don't need to see my belly anymore. All right, let's jump into things. I'm going to be pulling up Tabletop Simulator, but let's go through some of these questions. How's the background music now? Let me know if I can definitely turn down the music or turn it off if it's too distracting. All right, so the first question we got in here, favorite video game, board game, non-Genesis CCG. So I'll take those as 3 separate questions. Favorite video game, that's hard. I've always been a huge fan of the Final Fantasy games, and you'll see some of the Final Fantasy influences in the way I designed Genesis. I like the idea of having these characters that were both a combination of casters and fighters working together, and then the idea of having summoners in that too. Okay, perfect. So I've always been a huge fan of Final Fantasy, but there was something about the Soul Reaver Legacy of Kain saga that really drew me in. It's conversation about time manipulation, time dilation, and just traveling through time. I thought that they did a pretty clever job at it with the idea of every action you do in a given timeline is predestined. It's already happened. So you can't prevent things from happening, but also creating that off chance that if you do something so absurd, so ridiculous, you can break the cycle and create a new timeline. So they kind of took a new approach to time dilation that I really love. I also love vampires. Anyone who's into the Future League stuff right now, you'll know I'm really, really into vampires. And so having a storyline revolving around vampires is really, really cool. So I love Soul Reaver for that. As for board games, I'm not a big board gamer. I've tried them a lot. I don't like games where you have to spend a short period of time becoming really, really good at them and then just never touch them again. Like, I played Ascension a lot, And then after a few months, we just stopped playing it. And this was very frustrating for me because I want to get better at games. I'm not someone who plays a game and then sets it aside. So that's where CCGs were really my jam. I love card games. I love the feel of cards in my hand, shuffling a deck of cards. It's very therapeutic for me. So I've always gravitated towards collectible card games. My favorite, I mean, I gotta give a huge shout out to Magic. Magic's just such a well designed game. I loved Overpower. I grew up playing Overpower. It was the thing that all my brothers bonded on. I learned so much about the Marvel Universe. It was great in that regards. So, actually, the cheese system, I kind of took a hybrid between what Overpower did with their point system and what a miniature game does and kind of put that together in a card game. So, that's where the cheese system comes from. So Overpower was a huge influence for me, and that was probably one of the card games I played the longest outside of Genesis and Origins. Um, Next question: what was it that made you decide, okay, let's do this then, and begin the process of creating what is now Genesis? It started with my wife, then girlfriend, going to teachers college, and I sat down with my best buddy Lionel, and I remember sitting outside the on the stoop of my parents' house with him. It was September 1st, and turning to him and being like, "I want to do something with my time while my girlfriend is at university, and I want to take you along this journey." And I've always wanted to start my own company. So I thought, okay, let's start my own company. Let's put things together. And then I tried to figure out what to do. And originally, we're going to make this deck builder card game called Odyssey. And it was supposed to be like an RPG deck builder, dungeon crawler type of thing. And Lionel's still running with it. He's still designing it. But at the end of the day, we decided not to go with that. And one of my best friends, well, childhood friends, he told me, if you already got a game that you're passionate about, don't try creating something new. Go and create your game that you love. And so I decided, okay, let's set aside Odyssey. Let's focus on making Origins. And Origins had a big issue where it wasn't designed for people to sit down and buy booster packs. It was designed to be kind of like how you play on tabletop, where you have infinite copies of every single card. So, had to simplify the rules a lot. I had to simplify the card selection. Champions and Origins were single affiliated. We had to make them dual affiliated in Genesis, so that opening up a booster pack, you had more odds of getting cards that you could play. And then it was just this process of giving me something to do while I had downtime. And then at one point, I had this game together, which was really great. And I was like, you know what? I want to know what it's like to do marketing and sales. I never done that before. So I decided, okay, let's take the game to the market and see what we can do with it. And we went to SkyCon, which was the first convention, and it was very spontaneous. We weren't ready to go to SkyCon, but it was more of a test the market, see how we'll do. We took 30 starter kits there, and we sold over 20 of them. We had just a handful of them left, maybe 5 or 6 left by the end of the weekend. And I was like, you know what? If we can sell these starter kits, which were selling at the time for $75 to brand new players, and it was going well, I was like, why not? Why not just take this full time? And that was the big leap off. Just the idea that our competitors are selling their starter kits for $10 to $15, maybe even $20, and we're selling them for $75, and people were still buying them. That was a really big deal. So now then it just kind of evolved into what Genesis is now. Thanks for the questions. And hopefully I got the music going a lot quieter, and you can hear me well. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. In the meanwhile, I thought I would do some deck design. So I liked a lot of the Future League champions. Not that I don't like the old champions. I'm definitely going to still build decks around the old champions as they come up. But and I think in the long run, I'm never gonna stop playing Long. He's just such a great champion, and in my opinion, still one of the best summoners out there. But I really want to test out some of these new guys. Basher, who's really interesting to me because of the now energy reduction of 3. So that's definitely something I would be interested in. Is there a particular champion you want to see me design for, or try doing some deck building around? If there is, let me know in the comments. I'm definitely leaning towards. I already have a shapeshifter deck. A rock, paper, or scissors, and why? Um, what do you mean by that, Alex? What do you mean by rock, paper, scissors? Like how is it designed in the game, or what does it mean to put that concept in? Can you kind of elaborate what question you're asking there? Um, yeah, I gotta build a deck with vampire. I just don't have a vampire deck yet, and I need one. Vampire is just the boss. Uh, so we're looking Bellum Chaos, Fire Attack. So having some mobility is definitely gonna be solid with this. So I don't know how other people do deck design, especially on tabletop, but I like taking all the cards that I can play with and throwing them into one giant pile. What would you pick? Um, I don't know. I'm not a big fan in a game of rock paper scissors. I don't know if this is a trap, so that one day we're gonna be playing. It's like some really important game, and we're deciding who goes first, and you're just gonna be like, "All right, let's play rock paper scissors," and then pull this out. But I don't know. There's something about scissors that just seems like overly. Scissors and rock just feel overly aggressive. Uh, I like paper. I think the fact that it wins through pacifism. It doesn't win from destroying the opponent. It wins from stopping the opponent from attacking. I think that's kind of like it's silly, and I like that. I like the idea that paper wins that way. So I don't know if I would naturally go towards paper, but that's that's my answer. I like the silly questions because I remember growing up and this one friend I met, Ryan Ferguson, back in like grade five, grade six, something like that. And we became really close friends over the years. He introduced me to some of my closest friends throughout my life. And years later, I was chatting with him, and he was like, "Do you remember the first thing we ever talked about?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "You asked me how uncomfortable how uncomfortable do you feel when you go use someone else's bathroom?" And I'm just thinking to myself, like being in grade six or something like that, and going up to someone and asking them that question. Like this is literally the first thing I said to the person. And I'm like, that's kind of ridiculous. And we became close friends through that, and I think that's awesome. Sometimes the most ridiculous questions are the best ways to approach it. Hey, we have a lot of people watching. Thanks for joining us. If you have questions you want to ask me, feel free to ask. If you want to just see me do some deck building, that's what I'm here for. So I'm looking at making the vampire deck. I'm trying to figure out what I really want to do. And sometimes I make decks on the top down approach. I like the idea for vampire of like being the scary brute in combat because you have the built-in swift attack 3, which is a lot of damage. You have an amazing awareness. So now you're playing like rain, but instead of having living shadows, which is this threat of always coming showing up, you have bloodthirst, which is forcing you as a champion to always be in combat. You have the same amount of aura, but you have 4 more health, which is good. And then you have the energy reduction, so it's very similar to rain in a lot of ways. But you get this drain attack, which is the thing you're really going for. Unlike Malik, where late game you want to stop using your heavy attack, in here you want to be trying to get your slow action attack off as much as possible. And so I don't know. I think Shadow's Grasp would be really great here. The idea of bringing your opponent in, uh, because the thing I really want to do here is just always, as often as possible, get the opportunity to drop the drain attack. So what is Shadow's Grasp? That's a 5G card. Perfect. Johnny, awesome. So when can we expect worldwide distribution to see Genesis compete with Flesh and Blood? So that's a really great question, and that's something that we're working on continuously. The challenges we have, so Flesh and Blood, amazing game. If you haven't checked it out yet, I do highly recommend checking it out. And this is one of those things I'm always going to advocate for, is that uh, I love it when people sit down and play Genesis. I do, and I love seeing the players interact with it, and I love hearing from players. This is my number one game, or this is my go-to game. That's really great, and it makes me feel really great that I was able to provide a game for you. But at the end of the day, one of the things I love the most is that people sit down and play card games. Um, I think the community building, the competitive nature, especially for people who aren't into sports. I was never into sports growing up, so having some sort of platform to be competitive, it taught me a lot of things and a lot of lessons growing up, like how to be a good winner and how to be a good loser, how to appreciate the game for what it is, but also to be competitive when you're in the moment. So I want people to play games that if Genesis is your thing, that's awesome. If it's not, and you'd rather play Flesh and Blood or Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh, go for it. I mean, at the end of the day, we are still trying to build a business, but we will find the people who enjoy playing Genesis more than those other games. Um, Worldwide distribution. So Flesh and Blood, a lot of people don't know this, but when that company launched, they actually had a massive amount of investment up front. They didn't kickstart, but they also weren't self-funded. They had investors who helped them get their foot in the door, get the game out there. They had to sell portions of their company. That's speculation. I'm not 100% sure about that. But know that they had this investments early on. And whatever the terms of the investments were, at the end of the day, it worked out a lot for that company. They were able to put together a beautiful product really, really early on. And even their first print run was just gorgeous. Uh, they had a lot of money backing them. I am completely self-funded, and that slows things down dramatically. Now, one of the things I am looking at, and I'll throw this out there so that people who are watching can know about this, but I am working towards this opportunity of creating an investor stack. So if people are interested in owning a portion of Haunted Castle Gaming and owning a portion of Genesis, they can do that. I didn't do it in the past because I wanted to prove to the world and to myself that I can make this game, that I can make it grow, and I can make some good decisions along the way. Once we have more funding, we would be able to push for distribution. Now, we are in conversations continuously with distributors. And the thing is, in this space, it's very hard for distributors to be willing to pick up a new game because the stores have been burned so much with so many great games, so many great titles being backed by great companies. Case in point being Transformers being backed by Hasbro. And the game still fails in the end. And that's a huge pain point for a lot of distributors because no matter how much inventory the stores are sitting on at that point, the distributors are sitting on way more. And we saw this with Lightseekers. Lightseekers did really well in the States, and it's still going to some degree in the States, but in Canada it was a total flop. And that was a really difficult thing for a lot of stores, a lot of distributors. I know a lot of stores that got burned personally because of Lightseekers, thinking it was the next big thing and buying a lot of inventory, and it just hurt them. So on this end, my big wins, I may not see a worldwide distribution for a few years, but every time I sign up a new store, it is a huge win for me. And I treat these stores, and Alex, who's actually in this chat, he can attest to this. I try my best to build a good relationship. I try to treat my stores not just as people who are selling my game, but they are my partners in trying to grow this community. They are my friends. I was there for Alex's wedding, and that was one of the highlights of starting this company. Despite launching all those sets, the fact that a store owner invited me to come attend his wedding, and I was there to see such a big moment of his life, it brought so much happiness to me. So right now, I'm really grateful for the relationships I have and the partnerships I've had, and we are continuously growing. We partnered with a store in Ohio, Dragon's Den. And the owner there, I remember my first conversation with him. He messages me and says, by your name, are you Muslim? And I was like, yeah. He's like, awesome. Assalamu alaikum. I'm like, wa alaikum salam. And we just had this great conversation. And he recently went through the loss of a family member, and we talked about it. And it was it was good to have that relationship with someone, to know that beyond this game, beyond this company, beyond this business relationship, we have a personal relationship. So um, I I'm really grateful for all the partnerships that I have and how strong they've been. And this year really, really proved to me that what we're doing is the right move, because where so many companies, so many of our competitors, so many people are struggling. We grew. We grew by 50% this year, which was amazing. We signed on 4 new stores this year, despite everything that's happening. Huge shout out to Rochester CCG, Dragon's Den, Game Night League, and North of Exile, who have supported us so much along the way, and who, despite COVID happening, took the risk and decided to join our partnership, join our fold. So it's been a big challenge, but we're trying the best we can. And the day it happens, we will celebrate. But until then, we will push tooth and nail to make sure that what we deliver is a really great product always. And if you're part of Future League, you know that the struggle is real to make this game stable and make it strong and release new champions that are interesting and powerful. It's a challenge along the way. All right, sorry, that was a long question. Hopefully that answered your question, Johnny. And no, at the end of the day, no exact date of when we'll get worldwide, but we will be ready for it. You rock, and the fact that you have self-funded a natural CCG is amazing. I try to learn so much from you, and I appreciate that you are so open to speak with creators. The truth be told, part of the reason why I'm open is because I think that the industry has been stale for too long. Wizards of the Coast, Wizards Coast, Hasbro, Konami, and someone correct me. Oh, Pokemon Company, and who are some of the other big ones? I think those are the 3 big ones that are dominating the CCG space. They have been operating the same way for too long, and they work too much in a particular way that they do distribution and a particular way they communicate with the audience. They are so focused on making pushing things out to the players and conversing with the players, but not listening to the players. And then on top of that, they have test processes. I was recently listening to a podcast from people who tested the newest set of Magic, the Commander thing that came out, and they explicitly told Wizard not to release certain cards. And anyone who knows Jeweled Lotus. They explicitly said, so many of their testers said, do not launch this card, and they launched it anyways. Not saying that they're wrong, it's just they've taken advantage of being the top for too long, and they need more competition out there. So if it's not me, I will build up someone else to go do this. I want to be the one who does this, but if I'm not the one, I know someone should be. And if Flesh and Blood can do that, that's great. But I want them to challenge the status quo. I want them to challenge the way we see this industry. And so far what I've seen, I don't know if they're doing that. Now, I don't want to take anyone down. This is just my point of view from this. The way I look at it is I compare the current industry to the way the mobile industry was when BlackBerry was at top. Now, I'm a huge BlackBerry fan. I have a BlackBerry. I recently just switched actually to a Galaxy Note, which was the weirdest thing ever, but I'm getting used to not having a keyboard. But I love BlackBerry. I grew up in Cambridge, which is just next door to where BlackBerry's headquarters still is. And they were on top for so long, but it wasn't until someone came and challenged the status quo. Apple came and was like, no, we need to make products for the consumers, not tell the consumers what they want and give them something. And I want to see that shift in the same industry. So, Johnny, if I can help you do this, I will do that. I will work with anyone who's interested. Speaking of such, there's another collectible card game that's coming out from Woodstock, Ontario called Legions at War. And I've actually talked to that person time and time again about how do I help them do this. There's someone in our Genesis Discord community who is making their own collectible card game. I've helped them as well. I will help anyone who's making their own collectible card game because I want to see the industry change. I think there are certain things about the industry that are not in the benefit of everyone in the distribution chain, does not benefit the stores, does not benefit the distributor. It only benefits the top tier publisher, and I think that's wrong. We should be a partnership, growing communities. Because if we are saying we make games for the players and it's about the communities and the game means nothing without the community, well, we have our own communities, which are the store owners, which are distributors. I Every time I meet up with Alex, it is a great. I'm always excited to do that. Steve-O, who owns Heads or Tails, he's probably one of my closest friends these days, and I right now he's really busy and I haven't talked to him in a few days, and it hurts a little bit because I miss him. I miss seeing these people, and that's the thing about COVID that really hurts, is that I don't get to see these store owners and sit and chat about things. So I think that a lot of things need to change, and that's where I'm at. All right, sorry. Next thing. Okay. In Canada, they tried distributing through Toys R Us. I think ZW is talking about Light Seekers here, and very little in Walmart, if I remember properly, concerning Light Seekers. Yeah. Again, I think there is a big reason why I haven't even had it cross my mind about distributing into Walmart and Toys R Us and other stores. This industry, the card game, the CCG industry, starts with the store owners. It starts with those hubs. It starts with Dragon World. It starts with Heads or Tails. It starts with Dragon's Den. It starts with North of Exile. It starts with these stores building the communities, and without them, the entire system falls apart. And that's my belief, and that's why I will go to distributor in Walmart years from now. You won't see it anytime soon, even if the opportunity came to me, because I don't think that's the right move. Alex confirms Sid is a good guy. Thank you so much. I always love coming to visit your store and sitting down with you, chatting with you. Even our conversation last night. So Alex and I had a conversation about the new champions in Future League last night, and I had so many concerns because so Future League, for those who don't know, Future League is our sandbox testing environment. It's what I have open right now on Tabletop Simulator. It's a series of cards that are not yet launched. For example, I'll pull up this vampire. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it very well here. Okay, perfect. This champion does not exist in the game yet. It's a speculation of a champion that I might want to launch sometime within, I would say, the next 2 to 3 years. And I wanted to see how this champion works. So I throw it out there with the current card pool and some other new cards, and people take that together and they start testing it. I recently went through this idea of making some pretty massive changes to a lot of the Future League champions. And I woke up the next morning to a barrage of messages of people not liking these changes. And on one end, I need to be, I want to be emotionally detached, understanding that this is a testing environment, that what people are saying are not exactly an attack against me, but they just don't like what's happening with the card. But at the same time, I get attached to these cards because my design process is really weird, especially when it comes to champions. I get to know them on a personal level. We become friends. I can close my eyes and I can see them. I can talk to them like they're right in front of me. And it's a really weird design process, but it's what I do. So on one end, I want them to be tested thoroughly, and I appreciate the comments. I appreciate all the concern, but it also means I need to be emotionally strong when people come back with negative feedback. So I needed the day to kind of digest what was being said in the Future League channel in the chat there. And then I chatted with Alex at the end of the day, and it was really confirming that what we were doing is the right approach. So thank you, Alex, for everything you've been doing with Future League. Thank you for supporting the entire process along the way, and for putting these cards up here. So thank you for that. All right. Concerning Future League, how is the experience of watching others passionately discuss and argue about cards you have and will be creating as though they already affect current game style and metas? All right, that literally ties into things. On one end, I love the conversation. I applaud it. I think it's the right thing. And if you think I'm wrong, you should be actively saying that. I don't think you should hold back on your opinions. However, give us the benefit of the doubt. I have been designing this game for 10 years. Some decisions I make, I've calculately decided it. Things like increasing the energy reduction from the fighters having one to the fighters having two. That's an idea that was proposed to me by Carl when he first joined the team. I'm talking about before Alpha was finished designing. He proposed this idea. And we're just implementing it now, 3 years later. We have been thinking about these things for a long time, have been speculating about them. Our first time testing a lot of this is with you in Future League. So we are trying to figure out how it works. Don't get attached to the cards in Future League. I promise you, a lot of the cards you're playing in Future League will never see the light of day. Some of them will, quite a few of them will, but some of them will never see print. So don't get too attached to them. Give us the benefit of doubt and try them for yourself. If you cannot, get a copy of Tabletop Simulator to test the cards. If I recommend printing them off, sleeving them up, and just testing them at home against yourself, against a friend. What we used to do, I don't have any cards here, but we would take playing cards. I would go to the dollar store, buy 2 decks of playing cards for $1, pass one to my friend, and then just take markers, Sharpie markers, and just write the name of the card on every single of the playing cards. Or say all my clubs are hunting hounds or whatever, right? And we would play a few games with the cards just to test them out. The cards feel really different in game than they do in speculation. And a big reason about this, and I don't blame anyone for this, because I think that people take the analogy of other games that they play and bring it into the Future League experience. If you are an active Magic player, you're going to take the way you play Magic and bring it into Future League. If you are an active Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon or any other game player, you're going to bring your biases and bring them into your Future League testing. And that's fine. There's nothing you can do about it. You are who you are. And if you didn't do those things, you would be a robot. It would be absurd. So bringing those things into Future League is perfectly fine. But try the cards out. Test them out. And understand that these cards are designed without flavor. This guy, I'll tell you, the way I'm designing him, he will be an actual vampire. So this works a little bit closer. But like some of these champions, like Commander, is he an actual Commander? The flavor isn't quite 100% there yet. So there's a lot of things that come into that. I'm giving you, the Future Leaguers, the benefit of the doubt, knowing that you don't know what the flavor is. You don't know what our plans are for a lot of these cards. I would request that you do us the same and first test the cards out. That will give you so much more confirmation on the value of those cards and those abilities as you go. And I think Alex can talk about that too. It's different looking at the cards and then actually playing with them. Shahan, thank you so much for joining us. I know you have so much when it comes to your opinions on Future League, on what we've done with the rules. This is a great platform if you want to come and ask us. I know you had some concerns about Forethoughts, which is our sideboard process. You've had some concerns about Shapeshifter. Throw your questions out there. I'd love to have that conversation with you. All right. Getting back to this deck design. So, again, like I was saying, I like this idea with Vampire. Let's create some pursuit. Let's create some opportunities to gain some momentum. Having the 1 energy reduction is good, but not having dodge, which is probably the best movement card in the game, that hurts. That hurts a lot. But Shadow's Grasp is definitely good. Oh, going in the theme of mobility and disruption and that type of thing, I like the idea of Mongol. I'm definitely, I think he's really thematic as a summon. Ooh. I love Olgi. Olgoi? I'm so hesitant. All right, Odin. Odin is definitely a solid option, especially if we're talking about mobility and disruption there. Okay, let's just first find all the cards that are on point with what I'm trying to do. Brawler's Momentum. That's a card that I think is not seen enough for gameplay. How are people feeling about some of the COVID restrictions that are getting put into place? I know I'm definitely worried about them. Toronto, so people who don't know, Toronto and what is it, Peel are being locked down. It's it's sad and scary, but we got to be safe out there, right? I don't know about fearmonger. It'd definitely be a solid option. So for everyone watching, at the very least, give me come say hi. I see that there are a few people who are watching on every platform. At least let me know you're there. If I missed your question, just restate it. The chat was kind of going. I don't know if I got everyone's answers out there. Uh, Part of it is it just feels like I'm talking to myself, but I'm okay with that. I'm used to talking to myself. It feels so on point to put Vampire Kiss into a vampire deck. It feels weird not doing it, but it's not on theme of what I want the deck to do. Um, and so let's see. Sideswipe probably not. Lambs is something definitely a good option, especially if I'm running Shadows Grasp. Lambs is a solid. I don't always like the artwork from the newer sets. I'll be honest about that. My favorite artwork is from beta, but I always like using the newer cards because they're just better templated and easier to read. Where's Lambs? Why am I missing it? There's Lambs. Lambs for the slaughter. I think the actual expression is lambs to the slaughter. So that was definitely a typo on our end. Um, so I don't know. At some of the cards, I tried my best. I mean, all of Alpha and Beta were designed completely by myself. All right, some stuff coming up. Vampire. The style of champion seems to play towards drains and healing to keep fit while gaining control. But do you think a more reckless style would work well? So I don't know. If I think of a vampire, I'm thinking of like who are some of my favorite vampires? My favorite ones, Mobius from or Morbius, sorry, from the Marvel universe is definitely a really cool one. I think of Blood Rain, which is where Rain's name came from the video game Blood Rain. She was definitely very reckless. I love what's his name, Blade from the Marvel universe is definitely a really good one. And Jealous and Spike. So thinking of some of those, thinking of some of those vampires, they are definitely reckless styles, but the desire to feed is so strong in them that they would be willing to actually turn their back to their opponent just to feed. So I think the idea of constantly feeding is your better bet, and creating some creatures that might actually be sacrifices, just so you can feed when you need to. So I'm definitely going to look at what's it called? There's a Silver Leg Recluse. I'm probably gonna look at Silver Leg Recluse. It'd be more on theme to use Dust Trail Mouse, just because a lot of times when I think of vampires feeding, I think of like at least vampires who are in desperation and need to feed. I look at the one scene from Interview with the Vampire and I look at one scene from Buffy where they fed off of mice to sustain themselves. So I think it's more on point to use that. But if I'm just using the creatures to just gain a little bit of health, I might as well pay as little ore as possible. Uh, a rushdown style that ignores the health loss and goes for quick and high damage to beat the clock. You can do that, but I feel like if you were going, it's probably easier to do that in Bellum and Chaos than it is to do that in Axon and Chaos. Axon doesn't give you those high damage cards. Bellum has Bolt Shot. Bolt Shot is king. So, yeah, it's definitely a reasonable approach. I don't think it's my playstyles, though. The best vampire equals blood count. Is blood count TV show, anime? I mean, there's infinite stuff out there, so it's hard for me to know everything out there. Uh, my all time favorite vampire has to be Lestat. I'm an Interview with the Vampire fan. So I read all the books. I am not a big reader in my entire life. I've read the Interview with the Vampire saga, like the Vampire Lestat saga, and I've read the Twilight saga. Don't hold that against me. I was young and not wise. I've read the Harry Potter saga, and to be honest, I think that's I read Ender Game. Ender Game was a great book, but I've probably read like less than 30 books in my life. I'm not a big reader. Actually, that's nonfiction. I mean, for fiction books. For nonfiction books, I've read a lot. I've read a lot of business books. So let me know where Blood Count is, what that's from, and I'll definitely take a look into it. It's a comic I wrote. All right, share it with me, Johnny. I want to read it now. You got to share it. You brought it up. This is on you now. Ooh, Skeleton Warrior. Let's go with something that's a little bit on the dark theme compared to Silver Leg Recluse. All right, Air Spirit, Gobble Gobble. I love these Future League cards. Landmine. Landmine seems interesting because I can now combo Landmine with Shadow's Grasp, which could be a really cool combo. Or Landmine with Lance of Slaughter. That could actually be really clever. And I really want to find a way to make traps work. Is there any Grasp cards in Bellum? I don't think there are. Yeah. Oh, where is it? How come I keep on missing cards? There it is. You can never turn down Bolt Shot. Ooh, you know what's exciting? I actually sent a bunch of cards to the artist who made Bolt Shot and Angel Retribution. Yes, same artist. And she's signing some of that stuff and sending it back. So I'm really, really excited about getting those. When I get those, there'll be definitely some things that are exclusive to Patreon members. So be excited to hear about some of that once it comes in, depending on how much spare stuff I saw. I sent her like maybe 20 of those 2019 Gold Stamp Angel Retribution promos. So if she signs all of them and sends them back, then I will definitely put some of those up for Patreon members if they want them. So yeah, I'm excited about that. So the one card from Bellum that I'm especially excited about is actually, I don't think it's in Bellum. I think it should be here in Future League stuff for Jaylara. Yeah, to increase Chilean waters. This could be a really great way in a pinch to be like, okay, let's gain some health. So looking at that, because it's just much lower Chi Breath of Jaylara. What's missing in this deck? So I don't have a lot of ways to deal with angels. I really don't have a lot of ways to deal with anything. Silly angels. Alex, I love some of these artworks that you picked for the Future League cards. Would I run Spike Pits? It's higher chi, it's less damage, it has more health, but it's interesting. Whoa, that's a big message that just came in. Shapeshifter. I'm assuming this came from Shahan. Alright. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, so feel free to not answer this here. Honestly, would prefer for you to be able to give an honest, unhurried response, but in good faith, I would love to understand why the changes to Shapeshifter in the update took the shape they did, because it feels like they all moved the character away from being a shapeshifter. Increase in aura pool, play more summons as summons increase attack damage, use that built-in attack instead of using the shapeshifter. A shapeshift to gain attacks, increase energy reduction, incentivize filling the deck with more techniques, etc. Instead of leaning into the shapeshift mechanic. All the changes tell me that as a player that I should use the shapeshift ability less in the new version compared to the old version. I just don't understand the changes. Again, this is an in-depth question. So if this stream isn't a good format for commenting, it's more than fine. Okay, so I'll try to answer this the best I can. I had this conversation with Alex because I wanted to run through my thoughts a little bit before posting anything or talking about anything anywhere. Again, keep in mind that the flavor that we're putting on the cards in Future League are abstract and not um, they're there just to give you something to hook onto, not necessarily correct. So we call it a shapeshifter, but she's not a shapeshifter. Like, she can do the shapeshifting thing, but it was just a name. It was just a random name given to the champion and a random name given to the ability. The flavor is not correct on the card. The idea is for you to test the card as it is, not to try to make the card into the flavor that's put on there. The artwork chosen for the champions are random artwork that Alex pulled off the internet. They are not our own artwork. The name given to the champion are completely random. Actually, one of the things that I thought of doing, and I'm actually doing this in the Future League document, is I'm just calling the champion random names. They're called things like Bill and Dean and Bobby. They're not, I'm taking away the class types because those come with inherent, like I was saying, they come with biases earlier on. Um, so the champion, I'll give a little bit of a spoiler here. The champion with that shapeshifter mechanic is actually a fighter who has this ability to change her weapon on the fly, and she can become an archer when she wants to. She can wield a heavy halberd when she wants to. She can pull out small little swords if she wants to. So again, it's the preconceived notions that we come into when it comes to the Future League cards. Every single one of the, and that's why I kind of like naming some of the cards like a Water Elemental plus plus. It's just an upgrade to the old Water Elemental. It doesn't have any inherent naming. Or like Big Bird or Gobble Gobble. They're random names. They're so you don't attach to the flavor of the card. What I want to see tested is the mechanics of the card and the flow of the concept of the card. So if you tip the exact same champion, instead of calling her Shapeshifter and giving the mechanics name Shapeshifter, you called her something like Jill and the ability called Ability X. Would you have the same concepts? Would you believe that the champion should be played this way? Or are you willing to take a step back as a tester and say, okay, let's look at this champion in an abstract way. How would I build for this champion? And that's what I would prefer the Future Leaguers do. The reason why I did Future League the way I did it now is that this is how we do it on the game design end. So a lot of the champions, before they get the name, for example, Kun was called Angel Champion in my mind. He was just this champion who had the angel wings. I didn't have a name for him. I didn't have a background for him yet. I just have a rough vision as though he was kind of like what he wanted to look like. Actually, Kun is a little bit based off of a champion I made for Origins named Caster. So I had this idea, okay, I want Caster, but I want her with the wings and this type of thing, back and forth. And I didn't come into an in-depth storyline or name or background or anything like that for a while in. And I thought I could do the same thing here in Future League. But what I'm learning more and more is that I shouldn't. I should really give these things really, really generic names. And we almost jokingly were talking about the idea of like, what happens if I just started naming all the characters after different people in King of the Hill? And you had Bobby Hill and I don't know, Peg is the other one, and I don't remember the daughter's name. But like, just if you had these random names, would you have the same biases going into your how the design of the champion should go? So I would recommend, from any Future Leaguer perspective, to take a step back and not get attached to the flavor of the card. Hopefully that answers your question. If it doesn't, feel free to yell at me some more because I'd love to have this conversation some more. If they want them, I think they want them. Sorry, Zayakar, I missed that. If they want what? I think context is design. In the case, my follow-up response would be ignoring the name and flavor. Why do the changes distinctive the use of the second ability as written, I feel since my question rests on the mechanics aspect of what the changes mean, I don't think my argument it is attached to the flavor. I very much am attached to the flavor, but I really don't feel my question was answered probably. Okay, so let's look at the shapeshifter. Let's pull her up. I will let you know that there is. I don't want to pull it up. This is a problem of having tabletop and OBS open up at the same time. All right, let's pull up. Oh, that's what's happening. Let's pull up shapeshifter here. Let's pull it up. Search. Shapeshifter has one of the cooler arts, in my opinion. Let's blow that up so everyone can see what this is. So, when I play tested the old shapeshifter, I found that there was barely ever a need to use a secondary ability. And the way I wanted to see the secondary ability used was in very unique and clutch situations. So this champion is, the way I wanted to move them towards was an in-your-face type of fighter. So the heavy attack means that you have to find ways to get into combat. But if you can't make the double move, then you can shapeshift into a situation that can give you a double move. So I was looking at this champion and trying to figure out a way to design it. And Alex actually brought up a really great combo on our Tuesday episode where you combine shapeshifter with Enraged Gorilla. So let me pull up Enraged Gorilla as well. Enraged Gorilla has counterattack 3. That's all I think I need to talk about. But counterattack 3 basically means if you're attacked by someone within your awareness, then you hit them back for 3 damage. And I was like, that is brilliant. That's where I wanted to move Shapeshifter towards. This idea of looking at your summons that you would seldom play because they're either too expensive for what they do or their value is kind of misplaced. And you're like, if I use them into shapeshifting, then I can be a solo fighter out there and shapeshift into the right situation I need. So a shapeshifter deck, the 3 cards that come to my mind immediately of summons I want to shapeshift into are Enraged Gorilla, because of the counterattack. What's his name? Stone Protector of Nye, so that if someone comes in and attacks me, I can shapeshift into Stone Protector and then just teleport away, because that gives you a swift speed teleport, which is phenomenal. And then the third being Androthera, because now I can shapeshift into Androthera and get that far range attack, combining it into my heavy, meaning that even though I can't move twice, I can still move once, shapeshift into the long range, and hit them for 3 from a distance. So that's the way I want this champion to be designed. That's how I would say on the surface level, how I want people to play with this champion. Now I'll pull up my shapeshifter deck just to kind of walk through it, because I built this last night, really excited about the current version of shapeshifter. And because one thing I saw that was really, really cool is that if I search through, let's take the champion off the deck. I decided to make a shapeshifter water deck. And the big deal around this is Makara. Makara, as a summon, does not get played very much because it's 3 or more than Water Pillar. And its big advantage is that it can do Water Brand. Water Pillar gives you the water branding immediately. Makara, you have to drop it, wait for it to survive, and then if it survives, then it has to go and hit the target, and then you get the water brand. But if you can move twice, shapeshift into Makara, use the swift water attack 2 here, and then water brand your opponent immediately, and then with water strength or some way to have other water attacks go off, you can now combo into more water attacks. This seems like a really clever way of optimizing shapeshifter. And then creating a water deck where I can use water pillars with Tsunami to hit for 4, drop some of the other water summons, one of them being Over Easy, which is a summon that we're testing out, who has a far forward awareness. It's a 5/5. I can shapeshift into this to do 5 water damage from a distance. That's awesome. And then again, I'm still using the Stone Protector because I think it's an amazing evasion. I'm using I think I'm using Tiny Bunny. I might not be. No, it doesn't look like I am. But like, it's about turning your summons into techniques that you can use in different ways. So at the end of the day, I think the discrepancy is that my vision for this champion and your vision for this champion are different. And it's not saying that your vision is wrong. I just, it wasn't the champion I was intending to make. And that's something that maybe in the future, a new champion can come out that's more your style of how you'd want to see a shapeshifter go. Uh, but yeah, so and then one comment that I'm actually going to be pulling into a conversation that you brought up in Discord, which was removing the attack ability from Shapeshifter altogether. That actually goes against one of our pillars of design. So that's why we can't remove the attack altogether. Um, so, oh, the old Shapeshifter cards are in the Oblivion bag in the lower right. Yeah, I'll take a look into that. This is the Oblivion. Do I have to pull all the cards out, I guess? Search. Oh, just give me one card. Do I have to pull them all out? Oh, I do. Maybe I have to... Sorry, I've never used the Oblivion bag. Can I search within the Oblivion bag? Deal search. Oh, I can. Perfect. There's the old shapeshifter. So it had basic attack 2 and the same shapeshifter mechanic. Now, one of the things, and the new shapeshifter that I kind of want to change towards is it does the shapeshift ability, but if you discard any card, you get which pillar was that? I was using the water pillar. And if you want, Shahan, I can definitely share this deck with you in Discord later on. Just send me a message there now, and I'll share this deck. And I don't know how well this deck will go, but I'm excited to test it out because I felt like building a water deck was one of the hardest things to do. Even, oh, okay, which pillar design? One of the pillars we have, which is always have options. It's the reason why early on, when Idris didn't have a heavy attack 1, we rated her to have the heavy attack 1. Because we want to make it that even if you're out of aura and you're top decking cards, but you don't have enough cards in your deck to pay the energy cost on them, you can still attack your opponent for 1. You're never at a situation where you cannot attack. And so our pillar is always have options. So every champion, at the very least, will have heavy attack 1. And it'll only cost exert. And then it will upgrade to higher and higher abilities. But every champion has at least one attack ability. And it's just what we built as like a fail-safe into the game. So, yeah. So the new idea I have for Shapeshifter is going along the lines of discard a card. You lose your current awareness and you gain the new awareness. So that's permanent until you shapeshift again or use the ability again. And then it also has a trigger that says, and then also if the discarded card is a summon, you gain all abilities of the summon until end of round. So you gain the awareness, but then you get the summons abilities as well. So this way you can now discard a card like something like Arcane Blast or something like that, and then it gives you the forward awareness until you shapeshift again. So I'll wait for Alex to post that up in the Future League channel, but that's more of where I wanted to move this champion towards. As champion, I'm loosely basing it off of a Final Fantasy champion. I'm pretty sure the Final Fantasy character's name was Freya from Final Fantasy V, I want to say. But he was this really cool guy who like had a sword, a shield, a bow and arrow, a lance, and all these other weapons. And his fighting style was that he constantly changed his weapons. I've been trying to put something like that into the game for a long time, and this was kind of my approach to doing something like that. So there is reason behind the madness of a lot of what I'm doing. All right. I'm hoping that comes closer to answering your question. I know that it may not be the answer you're looking for, but I'm trying here. It's hard. It's hard because I also know that we need to, from a designer standpoint, I need to take a step back from being fully involved in Future League, and that's why I use Alex as a buffer, because if I was directly in there, I do think a lot of people would not be comfortable being completely open and honest. So there'll come a point where I may not be super active in the Discord channel, and a reason for that is I want that space to be for the players to talk to each other in an open and honest platform. Because as long as the game designers are in there, some people will not be willing to be completely honest about some of the things they post out there. Not saying that we won't keep a close pulse on the community, and the way I want to do that is by having a good relationship with the store owners. So if you have any concerns, you can raise it to the store owners, and the store owners can raise it to us. But that's not necessary right now. We don't need to create that many layers. We just need to create some buffer space. So one of the buffer spaces that we'll see is that being in Discord, it also causes some liability issues, because if someone proposes a card idea in Discord and we end up creating a card that's very similar to that, it puts us at a bit of a liability risk. So I'm putting that out there to be open and honest to everyone who's watching this. Please don't use that to your advantage. But it is something. If you see that we're doing something and we stole one of your ideas, let us know and we'll credit you. It's the only fair thing to do. But anyways, back to designing this deck. Honestly, it's going to take me the full 2 hours to make this, but that's fine. I'll probably finish making the deck after the live stream's done. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying answering your questions. If you have any other questions about maybe some of the flavor of the world, maybe some of the mechanics, some of the artwork. Actually, one of the things I want to point out is that this character in Sacred Ground is actually a reoccurring character. I think it's the same character that's also on Unhinge. Where is the alpha Unhinged? There it is, the crazy character. So that character is supposed to be the same one that's on Sacred Ground. This is one of those like neat little Easter eggs if you ever like sit down and stare at the cards long enough. Where's Sacred Ground? Fortification, guided arrows. And then Treacherous Terrain is the same person on Angel's Kiss. Sacred Ground. Where did that Treacherous Terrain go? Did it just disappear? So yeah, there's a bunch of little things that I definitely enjoy talking to the artists and getting those put together. What about pushing? Could I push people towards me? Would that be a reasonable play? It seems slow and it seems uncontrollable, because like normally pushing people away is easy to do. Pushing them towards you is definitely harder. Now, if leader could give me the move, then I'd definitely run it. But it doesn't. It's a shame. Rajasi Lion in Origins, there's a very, very similar creature. I can't remember what it's called, but it was a lion. It did practically the exact same thing. It was very heavily played in Origins, and Rajasi Lion does not see any play. And someone let me know, why don't you play with the Rajasi Lion? I'd love to know. Why do you just skip that card? Because it seems fun. I think one of the big issues is that there's just so many good options in the 6G slot. Like right now I already have 2 from Chaos, and it's like I don't want to not run them. For those reoccurring characters who are in the cards that aren't the champions, do they all have a name, backstory already? No. It was to create cohesion within the artwork of the game. So they don't have names or backstories, but we had a general theme of like, how would VOD His champions look like? So this idea of the cloth, the armor, kind of the almost Arthurian style, that was something that we decided, okay, this is how Vodhis champions are going to look like. Or Vodhis soldiers will look like. Oh, shrunk it too much. Say la vie. And then even like the mage in Axon, there's a mage who shows up a lot. Search. And so if you notice, let's go to Axon. Oh, perfect. We're already here. So there is a mage on Chain Lightning. It's the same mage that we see on Tsunami. And we see one more place. Might not be an Axon, actually. No. I think it's in Chaos and it's on Flame. No, it's not. I think so. These two were the exact same as well. So that hood is really supposed to be with the Telltale sign. That's hooded figure. It's supposed to be the same character on both cards. And I also know that because the artist is the same. It was Ivan who did both of these. Ivan was a really great artist. He did a lot of our early pieces. Worked really closely to us. Part of the reason why we didn't bring him on full time was he wasn't ready to leave his current freelancing style to work more dedicated onto the project. And so we didn't end up working with him anymore after Alpha, but he did a lot of pieces. I wouldn't be surprised if we did this in Dax. A lot of people wish there were backstories on a lot of the cards. I remember the bunnies, like who was it? JC, who was like, why he loved the artwork for Decoy Rabbit back from the early days. And I remember one of my early memories of like one of the coolest things happening to me was I met up with JC one day before he was part of the game design team, before Welcome to Jilari even came out, I think. And he had this card as the background of his phone. And he was wondering, why is there so much detail in that rabbit? Like, why does the rabbit look so real? And it was just like, it was a really funny thing for me. And I know why. There's this technique called photo bashing where instead of doing everything from scratch, you use parts and pieces from a lot of different photos and then you smooth them all together and you put your own little touch to make them into one cohesive piece. And I know that's what was used here for this rabbit. So it was, and then he kept on pushing to try to create like, what is the backstory? Where does this rabbit come from? Why is there so much importance on it? It's like, I don't have answers to those things. It was just a funny piece of artwork. So I like tying some things together, but not everything has a story behind it. I'm sorry if that's anticlimactic. Still trying to figure out what from Bellum can really provide value in this style. Like Spike Pits is definitely interesting. I think Landmine was definitely a better choice. Lower Chi allows for some good design there. I would love to one day make a deck that uses Taki Psyche, but it seems unlikely. It'd definitely be a harder card to figure out. How are people liking the deck text that I put on a weekly basis? Do you read those? I love to get your opinion on those because I enjoy writing them, but you know it'd be nice to also know that they're being read. All right, what else could I run in this deck? There's no like leech type of effect, I don't think, except for Vampire Kiss and Essence Drain, and Essence Drain is way too expensive. Is that new Essence Drain in here yet? I'd love to run that. But again, it's action speed, it's slow. Like the thing about Essence Drain that can definitely give value is it has angles. So I'm almost hesitant to grab the new one. Rompo's cool. Rompo is the little thing that's being tossed in Colossal Land, in the Colossal Land artwork. That's an option. Colossal Land. Ooh. Oh, yeah, yeah. Pushing works. I was so wrong about that. Don't think about pushing other people into you. Push yourself into other people. That's what I need. Doi. I love this gen. Uh, I remember early days when it was first proposed. I was kind of iffy on it. And then I started playing with it, and I loved it. Like, I just fell in love with that card so hard. Where's Colossal Ant? That's another really fun one. I think that's enough variety in this deck. I don't think I'll end up using a lot of these cards. So I do have some summons. Let's line those up. I always do this where I line up cards by type, just so I have a good sense of like what am I building out. Yeah, new Essence Drain should be in there, but like I was saying, I just don't see it being super useful. Bolt Shot. Bolt Shot's a solid card. So I think the idea, I also find it very poetic, the idea of a vampire like pulling you in and then feasting on you. I think that's gonna be definitely a design style that I want to build towards. But I don't know how many of these guys I want. The consensus is that running 5 of them at least will give you 1 per game. Want a bit more than 1. I think I'm gonna run 7 of them. Gives me a good middle spot. So that's 6. Let's run 7 of these. And then I don't know if I have enough techniques to make Brawler's Momentum work. So maybe I'll skip Brawler's Momentum, which is a shame, but I don't need movement set up for next turn. I need it more for the current turn. 4 of these. Let's go with a 5th one of these. Sadistic Illusion is an Axon, isn't it? That would be a good card in this deck. Alright, gonna go with 5 of the gens. And balance them out with 5 of the ants, because that was the combo I was seeing there. Let's grab this original ant and move it over. Mongol and that. Okay, let's take Brawler's Momentum off the table. I think we're gonna run 4 Mongols. They're nifty, but they're not like super relevant to my strategy. They're just like a bit thematic for me. Alright. Anyone else thinking of any questions? I love to, I don't know. What things do you want to know? What things can I ask you about? Yeah, so Alex and I are going to be doing a show coming up soon on Tuesday, and we'll be discussing our top 10 Bellum cards. But it started off with me just asking him what are his top 10 cards. And I'd love to know from you, if you're watching, what are your top 10 cards? What would be your, like, top 10 most, let's say, top 10 favorite cards to play? Give me that list. 3, 4, 5. that too few build shots? For the world flavor, will we always be seeing fantasy based imagery, or will there be some tech based summons or environments the uh, coming from found down the road? Okay. Um, so yeah, that's actually a really good question, and that's something I can rant about for a little while. So down the road, I always wanted to keep this open that we could explore a lot of different genres. We started in high fantasy or this dark fantasy, I would like to say, partly because this is what I'm most familiar with. This is something I've always enjoyed. I've always wanted to explore a little bit more as a designer and just as a person. So that's part of the reason why we started here. But one of the things I want to look at is once we leave Jalara, we're going to be exploring new worlds. And each world is going to be crafted completely differently. So, what my theory is, the world of Jalara is based around this epic war that happened centuries ago. Uh, the war was guided between the five, we call them like ancient ones or gods or whatever you want to call them. And you know their names. It's Bellum, Thymos, Axon, Chaos, and Phage. Those five were trapped behind in an alternate Marvel universe, which is locked up by the Book of the Dam, which Kendra carries around her. And as long as Kendra and the Book of the Dam are tied together, like the lock for the Marvel world is tied to Kendra's life force. And as long as Kendra is alive, that book seals these five ancient ones away. At the end of Jalara, we wanted to explore the five ancient ones breaking out and getting out from behind that book and back into the world. They come back into the world centuries later, and things are just a mess. And they realize that the experiment they created on Jalara is not worth pursuing anymore. And they end up leaving that to go start new worlds. So the five worlds I want to explore is if each one of those ancient ones went off to a different world and created their own utopia. So the chaos world, chaos representing power and kind of the dark fantasy a lot more. So that would be more of a horror-based world. Phage being about survival and this greed and kind of selfishness. So I would almost want to look at a disease-infected world and how do people survive in this. So kind of a zombie apocalypse type of thing, kind of a different suspense horror type of thing. Axon will be about knowledge and technology and advancement because people want to take control of their own destiny. So I've actually proposed a few different worlds for Axon. One of them being a steampunk world where people are modifying their body parts to be something different. Another one, a more Final Fantasy type of world where we combine high tech with common magic and see how that plays out. And then another option is going completely down the sci-fi world of like really, really high technology and almost setting aside fantasy a little bit because we still have to incorporate aura into it. So that was definitely a lot of things. Thymos, I've looked at. Oh, sorry, I have a phone call coming in. Let me decline this. Thymos being all about emotion. I don't know. There's so many approaches. I know someone wanted to make us making a pirate themed world. That would be really fun. It really comes down to okay, what are some of the more emotionally driven lores out there? And one thing I know was very emotionally driven is Greek mythology. A lot of the decisions being around people backstabbing each other. It's almost like a soap opera in a lot of ways. So let me just put my phone on to silence. So that was definitely a thing. that's the Thymus world, and then the Bellum world being about revolving around belief. I like the idea of focusing it around. Um, I don't know why I keep getting phone calls. All right. Anyways, I'll try my best to ignore it. Bellum around belief. I like the idea of exploring angels because angels are a big part of the storyline in Genesis so far. So I would like to know what are uh, what if you had 4 or 5 different sects of angels and they were going at war with each other. So I have a bunch of different ideas. Not necessarily saying any of these are set in stone, but I like the idea of kind of exploring if each one of those ancient ones took over their own world and designed something, what would that be like? So Axon is definitely something I'm really interested in. There's a lot of opportunities there to explore new realms of fantasy and what we can do from there. Because, I mean, even though we look at something like, what's it called? Star Wars as like been on the sci-fi end. There's a lot of fantasy in it, especially the original 3 movies. So we could definitely go down that approach of like, what is fantasy look like in a high tech world? So yeah, that's some of the stuff that I've been speculating around. All right, back to deck design. Uh, do I think Skeleton Warrior? I think Skeleton Warrior is probably a safer option than Oten right now. Just because evasion is good. I don't know. This deck seems really iffy. There's just something missing from it. And it's a lot of like board manipulation, but it's not. Huh. What do you have recommended if you were building this deck? Hmm. Just trying to figure out what can we put in here that's really would tie this deck together. I really want something like some sort of heavy hitting technique. I guess I can go back to that Vampiric Kiss. Because if my health is getting low, then Vampiric Kiss can definitely be a good option. And it pairs well with the Jalarian Waters. Where's Vampiric Kiss? How does that deck look like? What are your thoughts? So these Skeleton Warriors are really just in here to eat if I need to, or if I just need some more board state. The Mongols are really my summon that is going to be chasing after my opponents. Hopefully doing some sneaky maneuvering to deal some solid damage. Colossal Land is Colossal Land, the Jinn, Lamso Slaughter, Shadow's Grasp. These are all about manipulating my board state so I can get in close to my opponent and hit them for a decent amount, or position myself properly to bolt shot for a lot. Vampiric Kiss, my built-in drain. I'm hoping that can dish out enough damage. And then Jalarian Waters, that just keeps me alive. And then the worst case scenario is if for some reason my opponent's super manipulative and I can't get to them or I can't get to any of their targets, they can just use the waters to heal. I can just use the water to heal so I don't lose the one. Now, I don't have a great way to deal with angels here because besides Bolt Shot, I have no way to deal with aerial. It's always good to put some sort of AoE card in. Bolt Shot's a good option for here. So yeah, Angel decks I would suffer from, and I might make a few tweaks to deal with them. And then the other one being Swarm, I have a bit better of a grasp on being able to deal with that. Landmines will help with that. And yeah, so as Alex has shown me, sometimes variety isn't necessarily a good thing. Sometimes a more focused deck makes it flow better. That's true. Um, Maybe I am going in a lot of different approaches. I feel like the bolt shots are the most out of place cards. Like they're so useful, but they're so out of place. But it's also like I don't have access to Tsunami or Landslide. And I think bolt shots give me a good opportunity to deal with some swarm or some masses. If I can hold on to the bolt shots for either the kill or to deal with a big summon drop and not use them too early on. Like if they have two summons that are lined up in a row and it could bolt shot them, it's probably better to just use my built-in attack to just chip away at them and kill them until I can get to a point where the bolt shot's just absolutely necessary. So hoarding them is probably a better option for gameplay purpose. The landmines, what? How do they currently read? So this is the current version of them. The upgraded version hasn't been dropped in yet. So we're gonna need that soon. Alright. Let's consolidate this deck. Should I do another deck or should I like test decks out? I can test some decks out. This vampire is way too large. Alright, let's save this. Weighted nets. Weighted nets are definitely. Oh, I don't have access to them. They're Thymos. Weighted nets are definitely a really great card. As Alex has let me know, it's always good to double check that you actually saved your deck properly. So yeah, it got saved. Perfect. Let's switch over to doing some playtesting. So games. Load this up. Saved objects. Let's bring in the vampire we just played with, and I want more of a control group then, but I don't have like a control group deck yet. I've play tested this water mage a few times. Let's try it out some more. So drop that in. Drop that in. Yeah, just realized that yourself, hey? Yeah, weighted nets, great card, and definitely could help in a lot of situations. Like I would definitely love that with the vampire because that way I can go into draining my opponent instead of just straight out killing the creatures. Because drain is really what I shouldn't be too worried about it, but I am. It's just an inherent thing. Is that? Oh, let me close window. Like the moment you think about losing one health every single round, you want to deal with that as soon as possible. Alright, so shuffle these up. Need to figure out who's gonna go first, so I'll just grab a dice. Yeah, this is how I do a lot of playtesting. Like, normally, I know a lot of people are here right now, so I could just ask someone to join me, but I don't want to get too distracted in case someone has some questions that they want to ask. But this is, if I'm, like, up really late. Oh, that's a terrible looking dice. Let's grab the purple one. No, green. Always green. I'll just, like, grab two decks like this and just do some playtesting. And it's not perfect, but it's still better than nothing. Alright, so high number will have the vampire go first. 1. So Water Mage is going first. Let's draw 6 cards for Water Mage. Boom. Let's grab 6 cards for Vampire. Big hand. And then you get a Divider card. So here's the Baihus. Let's grab Baihu, flip it over. Draw that. Now we gotta flip it in hand. Put that in the middle. Right there. Actually, this doesn't make sense because the Water Mage is on the right of me. I like the Water Mage. I know that there's definitely been some debates on how useful it is. And I did take some recommendations on how to tweak it. But I don't know. I'm worried that it might be too good at this point. But we'll see. I think right now a big setup for it is just waiting for the right moment. Alright, so if I'm playing as Water Mage, I need to set up health and aura. So 25 health, 125 aura. 25. And that's minus, this is plus. 125. Perfect. Okay, and then Vampire is 22 and 90. 22 and 90. Alright, I definitely want to slow him down, make him lose as much life as possible early game. So let's... So Walls of Vadhis at the front. No, do I need to move? Yeah, no, I think here's a good position. No, putting it here will stall him round 1. I don't want to stall him round 1. Let's stall him round 2. So that costs 8. So let's do minus 10 plus 2. And then draw 2 Andros here and here. So whichever direction he goes into, I have some defense. 10, 3, 4. Alright. Pass it over. Okay, need to create some mobility. Let's go here. Walls only have 8 health, so I would be able to destroy those. Okay, let's drop a Jin behind me. That's 5. Not a lot of aura. That's okay. And then, yeah, hold on to things for now. Let's attack this wall, bring it down to 5 health. That hurts. -1. Already losing. Okay, next round. Drawing a card for both champions. The Mongols definitely gonna be good. Hand up there. So I don't know what direction he's gonna go. Might be good to let's go forward 1 because he can't get to me unless he can leap over, but he can't jump over the wall. Let's go forward 1, drop an Androth arrow right behind me. That way I can see what direction he's going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is how playtesting goes. Which champions are you most excited about when it comes to the Future League stuff? Have you checked them out? Is there any champions you really enjoy? Love to know. What would you do in the vampire's position right now? I want to get that Mongol out. Picking a direction doesn't matter too much as long as I have good support. Shadow's Grasp was going to be good against the Andros because I can negate an attack, and then yeah, let's go north and drop a Mongol behind me. No, I'm going to drop the Mongol here because it can trigger off the wall next round. So that's 18. Ooh, that's so expensive. Not plus, minus 10, 20. Oh, who here is actually part of the auction right now? That's been going on all day. Let's see how that's doing right now. There's definitely some things on the auction that are really cool that I've been keeping on how they're bidding. Wow, the alpha booster packs are going pretty high up there. All of them have crossed the $30 mark. 30 for the careful consideration one, and 35 for the other three. The alpha starter decks are up to $40 each, which is pretty cool. The blue plate, only one bid on that, staying where it's at. The complete sets have been going up, which is cool. The deck boxes have actually stabilized, I think, roughly around $20, which is a pretty good price point at them. No one's bidding on the uncut sheets. I'm surprised. So, do I play test mainly against my own decks? I like not to. Ideally, that's not the best approach for things because, like I said at the beginning, I like having a control, having a deck that you know is pretty solid. In the early days, especially when we were testing Welcome to J. Lara and we were testing Rays, we were looking at what are some of the top decks at that point. So when Welcome to J. Lara was coming out, it was the Idris Giant Scorpion deck. So we used to do a lot of playtesting against that, and it would go well, but it was hard because none of us played the Idris Giant Scorpion deck. So we did our best, but this is part of the reason why Future League is so important, is because we can playtest with some of those top tier decks like the Rain OTK, the Nubia Tsunami, Nubia Angels, the Raha Bolt Shot. But since we're not those players, since we're not the ones who crafted those decks and we're not the ones who played those decks the most, we're not the best people to represent those decks in testing. But it does give us some understanding, gives us some baseline to go off of. I like using my long deck in playtesting because I'm so confident in my playstyle in it, and I can be very aggressive with that deck. I win quite a few games with it, and I enjoy it. So that's a deck that I like to bring into playtesting. And now with the champion, with Race coming out, I hear that the Erica Landslide deck is really good. I haven't played against it too much. I haven't played with it at all. If someone has a deck list for that, I'd love to grab that to put it into our suite of decks that we use playtesting. Most of our playtesting decks we have in physical copy. I don't have a lot of them on tabletop. I just don't have them up here. So if you have decks that you would like to put into circulation, let me know, and I'd love to add them into our playtesting suite because they are very important. And maybe that's something I can get your help with, Steven, is maybe in the deck building kit, there could also be some decks that people can have up there. So, some of the top tier championship decks from the circuit, from the championship, we could put into the deck building tool. So if you don't have a deck, or even on this table would be great for that. Having those decks already pre-made on here, and then that way, if you don't have a deck to play with, or you're doing some play testing, you can just grab one of those decks and start playing with that instead of having to have everything saved. We just have some decks ready here. You're interested in the Swarm deck and Master Summoner. So Master Summoner is one of those champions I'm very, very excited about because I actually think I personally feel that it's a top tier champion. And it's the subtlety of it that makes it such a good champion. Not everyone's gonna be able to play with it well. The one thing that makes Nubia so strong is that it doesn't matter how good of a player you are, you're you become a notch better just from playing Nubia. Because if you're bad at deck design, Nubia fix that. If your deck's around a few cards that you can't put a lot of, like Angel Retribution, Nubia fixes that. Nubia, Nubia is like having a handicap, and that's why it's such a powerful champion for tournaments, for circuits, whatever. However, where Nubia falls short is that it becomes a crutch. If Nubia loses circulation or becomes banned or anything like that, um, then all of a sudden you if you don't know how to play with other champions, you're hurting really really bad. Not saying we would ban Nubia, but I could definitely see in the future someone making some sort of like some tournament where they decide, yeah, Nubia is banned for this tournament. Or when we go to the new worlds, Nubia won't be there anymore. So to be more responsive to the way the game's growing, it's best to practice with a few different champions. Now, Master Summoner, the thing that makes Master Summoner really interesting is, again, uh, it'll be the subtlety of being able to beckon on angles. It's way, way more powerful than you think it is, for anyone who's watching. So, Master Summoner, what it says is instead of being able to beckon summons adjacent to you, you can beckon summons in any of the 8 spots around you. So, you can now start beckoning summons on angles, which is really cool. Uh, the value here is that if for summons that have good enter arena effects, so Master Summoner is Axon Phage. So we don't know all the Phage summons that are coming out, but even we know that Phage is coming out with Replicate. So Replicate says when the summon enters the arena, you put a duplicate of it into play. So being able to replicate summons, beckon it on an angle, then create a replicate of it further away, you're now putting that summon like at least 1 or 2 moves ahead of your opponent. So it's not the same as having Blitz, but it is giving you that movement advantage that you wouldn't have before. So Replicate's a really cool effect. Enter the Arena abilities are really, really cool. And so we look at a summon, the best one using here is Chrono Walker. Being able to beckon Chrono Walker onto an angle and then decoy with it, swapping spots, and then getting that huge movement advantage that you wouldn't have before. It's now as powerful as it's basically what everyone wishes. What's the card called? Oh, it's a really cool one with Rain and the artwork. Displace. It's what people wish Displace was like. And then so Master Summoner, I think, has a lot of value add. The Sworn Champion, I wasn't a huge fan of it until Alex played it with Decoy Rabbit. I was like, that's value add. Now the new version of it, where you always get a little bug with every summon you beckon, that's just gonna be crazy. Like the power add is gonna be really really cool. I don't know how powerful it's gonna be, and I would love to see some people playtest it because there are so many cards out there that can now mass destroy 1/1s, and it may make a card that we weren't looking at a lot in the past more playable, which is Phoenix Fire, which does the one holy fire damage everything within the awareness. I was never a huge fan of this card before because 1 damage usually isn't a lot, but now with a lot of these 1 health summons becoming more playable, it could be a card that we see a lot more of. So I'm excited to see how that goes. The auction is fun, but not sure how I should strategize. I don't know either. I haven't been a part of a lot of auctions. I used to be part of eBay auctions a lot in the past. So I'm excited to see how things go. The one thing that I'm really the most excited about is finding out how this values alpha moving forward. Because I don't know what my plans are for Alpha. I know that a lot of people have been requesting that we see a second print run of Alpha. Uh, and if we do that, I don't know how to approach it. Because I think one of the things that makes Alpha is just the fact that um, it was such a small print run. And really, Alpha's second print run is beta. Uh, Except for the change in the Hydroblast and the template changes. Like aesthetically, beta is different, but functionally, beta is alpha's large print run. So I don't know how I feel about doing a larger print run for alpha, but we'll see. The auction's definitely coming along, and yeah, I'm really grateful to Heads or Tails to Stevo for donating the deck boxes and the fridge magnets. They look really really cool. I don't have them with me. Oh, one thing I was supposed to show earlier and I didn't get the chance to show. Let me make sure I'm in frame. There's that Casmodon promo, which looks pretty cool. I don't know. Like I love the Future League promos. I love that they're reverse art. I love that they're rare. I'm I'm probably not gonna play with them just because there's so few of them in print. The Bolt Shot one, there was only 15. They're getting more and more per month. But Casmodon, we got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 20, 21. So one of them will get set aside for the company, but that still leaves 20. If we need to print more, we will, but that's it. For the people who didn't get their Bolt Shot promo, I did get those in. So I do have those. Here's that Chain Lightning promo, which looks really cool. Just having the artwork go straight to the edge of the card is really awesome. And I don't know, like this was something that was recommended by a Patreon member. So if you're part of Patreon and there is a card you want to see as part of the promo package, then let me know. I will make that happen. We have nothing in the docket, so if you recommend something now, that will be January's promo, right? So here's the other one. These ones I have much fewer of when it comes to the promos, because the one that was requested was specifically the beta one, but the beta artwork is not canon. Like the creatures that are being hit by the mage, the mage is not part of the actual canon of the world, and then the creatures that are being hit are also not part of them. But at least here in the Welcome to Jalara promo, you have Kendra hitting Fong, hitting Nubia, hitting Chrono Walker. Those are all cards in the game. So we have fewer of the Welcome to Jalara Chain Lightning, but still more of those than we do of the Future League promos. Alright, where was I on my turn? It was the Vampire's turn. He just dropped the Mongol. Play it safe, probably leave it there. And end that turn. And then this Androthera still has a play, so I'm gonna hold off on that. This one is probably the one I can be a little bit more cautious with. So if I move it forward 1, I'm still within striking distance of the Mongol, but he'll have to come to my face. Unless he moves here, then he can move twice. No, he's still there. So if I move him forward 1, the Mongol would be able to get to the Androthera, and nothing the Androthera could do back to it. So there's probably the safest bet. Anyone else overthink moves like this? Like, are trying to think several steps ahead and it just kind of gets crazy? Let me know. I'm super curious about that. Let's go there and do the push. Cause some aggression here. So Androthera's safest move, moving forward and attacking for the 2. Do I respond to that? I got Shadow's Grasp. I can hold on to the Shadow's Grasp for later. I think it's safe to just take the 2. It's early enough in the game. I'm taking 3 technically, which hurts. Take the additional 1, and then we go to the next round. Let's remove all these counters. I wish there was a button that just like retracted all of the exert tokens off of everyone. This is why I like playing with those heavy coins. If you ever see me play in physical space, I always play with the heavy coins, and this is part of the reason. There's just so much easier to pick up. So that one's going to the vampire's hand, and this one is going to the water mage's hand. Cool, 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 cool. So I could lock the vampire in there, which would hurt him because then he couldn't get to Androthera. Alright. With the lack of live events, conventions for the near future at least, are you thinking about adding some more promos or ultra rare cards to future releases, box toppers, and more unique epic cards? That's an interesting topic. I've debated about this a lot. So part of our process of creating promos and epics and stuff like that was that it's taking cards that are easily accessible and giving you a special version of that card that is harder to get. And the reason we went down that approach is because I think it's a more ethical design process. It makes it that people who are playing the game on a budget still have an opportunity to build something that is viable. Uh, so I wouldn't want to create a newer rarity or unique cards at a higher rarity level. I like the way the current system works. There has been some conversations and some debates about redesigning our booster pack process, and we talked about this in Future League. And if people are watching, I'd love to get your input about it. But I've thought about the idea of making 18 card booster packs and increasing each rarity level by one more. So you get 2 rares, 4 uncommons, and 11 commons, and 1 token card. And then taking out how we ended up putting the Baihu and Skeleton Warrior in that token slot, taking that out and putting it back, making them more repeatable in the common slot. And then taking the epics and increasing the rarity that they show up at. So instead of showing up 1 in 8 packs, making them 1 in 17 packs. So they're much harder to get, but they're a much cooler looking version of the original card. So if I can, I would like to make them borderless, make their text box a lot clear, transparent, and putting in reminder text where needed and taking it out in areas where it's not needed. So like beckon and attack abilities, reminder text is not needed, but something like Day of Peace, the reminder text is needed for how that works. So that's been some of my strategy. As for promos, I like the system we're currently using where we're promoting Future League and we're promoting... so we do promos in 3 regards. Promoting partnerships with stores. So any store that partners with us has the opportunity of creating a store exclusive promo and using it however they feel. The other is with Future League, and the third being with Patreon. That's how we currently do our promo process. I like that system because it promotes the things we want promoted. We're trying to get more people into Future League, so we create a promo to promote it. That's how I like to push those things out. I don't want to do anything that's a pure I don't know, like I don't know how I feel about creating those ultra rare cards and releases box toppers. I've debated about how to do the box toppers. One of my ideas was the foil champion should be box toppers, and in that way, the foil champions being box toppers, so that they're a lot harder to get, and people love them. Like I think out of all the cards to be foiled, the champions make the most amount of sense. So I have a bunch of ideas of what I want to do, but I'm still trying to keep it that if you don't have a lot of money, you can still get into this game and enjoy it and make good competitive decks. And that's a big shift of why I'm trying to get people more rares. But if you do want to really dig into it, become a collector, and enjoy the full extent of the game, there are other things to go search for. So that was some of the ideas I had. If you have some ideas, feel free, as always, let me know in Discord, let me know in Patreon or wherever, what ideas you have, and we will go forward with those. All right, I just looked at the clock. It's 5 o'clock. Any last questions? I'll keep this open for a few more minutes. Any last questions you have, let me know, and I will try to address them. Let me finish this turn. Give you some time to put those questions out. How would I approach this? So one thing I like the idea of dropping. Let's drop the Guardian of Balance, and in response to Day of Peace. So first, let's see. Does Vampire have any responses to that? Nothing here. In response to Day of Peace, the Androthera will attack. In response to that, I'll play Shadow's Grasp. So 8 and 4. Ooh, 8 aura, that's a lot. And 4. So anyone who's playing tabletop and has problem paying energy, if you hover over your deck and hit L, you'll lock the deck down. And then that way it's a lot easier to peel cards off the top of your deck without grabbing the entire deck. So 1, 2, 3. Let's grab this Andro, pull it up here. Okay, so that negates that attack. Then I will also drop this Dome Protector under Guardian, which is always a fun combo. 1, 2, and then 10. Alright, and then I will pay 10 to drop a wall here. Is there any other place that makes the wall? This is a move. So actually, if I drop another wall here, it really hurts the Mongol. But that's a lot of aura. The Mongol can't attack this round anyways. So I'll leave it. Yeah. All right. We'll make that the last question. Thanks, Shahan, for putting that out there. I've actually seen you post this somewhere else, so I'm happy to finally address it. So what was the reason for going with a summative system for Chi instead of a plus and minus system centered around 5 equaling 0? This is actually, what do we call that? Not legacy, it's called an artifact of Origins. The original system didn't have a deck size limit. So making cards that had 0 chi allowed you to create these decks that were there was just, the old system was really messed up. So it allowed you to balance your deck so much easier and do things that were really silly in deck design, and it got out of control a lot. And we ended up making a summative process where you're adding up to a particular amount, because that way people design decks closer to what we wanted them to design it. And then later on, we ended up going with this approach of where it is. And so it's definitely an artifact, and part of it is also, like I was saying it earlier in the stream, we based the system around overpower system. So overpower, the way it worked is you built a deck with 4 characters, either from the Marvel universe, the DC universe, or from Image. So you could have like Professor X fighting alongside Lex Luthor, fighting alongside Spawn, and each character had 4 stats, and when you sum those stats together, you had to sum all 4 characters' 4 stats, so you had 16 stats to sum together, and they had to come out to 76. So the average person came out to, I think, 18 or something like that. So if one character was 19, the other person would have to be 17 to balance out. And this was a system I grew up on and I really enjoyed. I would... actually, I'm going to shift this screen over now to our closing screen. So I'll answer these final questions and then I'll kind of start wrapping things up. Let me just make sure the microphone's still going. Yep. Okay, the microphone's still good. So we started basing everything around that, and then I played Warhammer and other miniature games, and I like the idea of having this point system at a higher number because then people can create alternate formats that are like 200 point games. So instead of the average card in your deck being 5, you can make the average card down to 4, or you can make 300 point games where the average card is now 6. And how does that change deck design? So having the summative process actually allows us to create other formats, or allows stores to create other formats in the future. If you wanted to create something similar to Pauper, but like a constricted Pauper, being like you can't run rares and your deck has to be 200 points, it now can shift things around. So it just gives some more flexibility. Is it the right approach? I don't know. I proposed this cheese system out there. I'm sure the next game that uses this cheese system will do it better than we will. I do believe that the first to market is often the first to fail, or not the first to fail, but they do eventually fail because someone comes out bringing something that's just better. And we've seen that in most areas. I don't know if that's true for ours. Thanks, Shahan, for that question. I hope that answers that. And then we'll wrap this up with some quick fire rounds. Pirate ninjas, robots. I like ninjas. Would you rather fight 100 rabbits size Zambers or one Zamber sized rabbit? Oh, 100 rabbits. I just think it would be adorable, and then you can make a stew afterwards. Favorite pie, cake, sweet. My favorite. Ooh, I love cheesecake. Grew up on cheesecake. My mom made some of the best cheesecakes ever. So that's definitely up there. My wife makes some amazing desserts. We had an apple pie crumble recently, which I absolutely loved. And then my dad made a really adorable birthday cake for me today. So, or last night. And I mean, it really comes down to the things people make out of love. I'm not a huge fan of store bought stuff or restaurants. I mean, they're so good and they're so delicious, but they can't be like my mom's kulfis that she made when I was a kid growing up, or my mom made these amazing trifles, and it's just things like that. Like the things made from love, made by your family for you. Those are always my favorite. So that's why I don't make the desserts. I always let my wife make the desserts because they just taste better that way. Anyways, thank you everyone who's joined us on this live stream. Thank you for staying with us for the full 2 hours. I hope you enjoyed some deck design. I hope you enjoyed all the questions and answers. Thank you to everyone who posted out questions. And thank you to our Patreon supporters who have brought us so far along the process, who have done some amazing things, and really kept everything afloat during this past year. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will see you. Make sure you join us on Tuesday for my show with Alex. Next Friday with our chat with the game design team, where we talk about the mythological creatures we put in the game. Of course, if you have any questions, anything you want to ask, message us on Facebook. We are on Twitter. I don't use it a whole lot, but if you message me there, I'll get it. Email me at contactus@hauntedcastlegaming.com, or Discord. There's so many different ways to get a hold of me. I'm sure my phone number's out there somewhere. You can even just text message me somehow. So feel free to reach out at any point and ask questions, get a hold of me. Or if you want to play on Tabletop Simulator, I am there